brought it back to before I brought it back to the screen, but because of the power issue, I'm trying to conserve some power so that I'll be able to finish the presentation since it's an 1 hour presentation. First, just like the topic has been introduced, doing digital archival research and textual analysis. The presentation is divided into two. That's digital archival research and textual analysis. And today we'll focus squarely on digital archival research. And it will be in this order. First, an introduction to the topic, and we'll move to the methodological issues that is associated with digital archival research. And I would give some practical do-it-yourself demonstration. At this point, I hope that I would have transit to the computer screen so that you will follow me and see what the practicals. And lastly will be a take-home task, a take-home assignment, so that by next week, once we are moving into textual analysis, we would be on the same page. Now, as a way of introduction, we all know that the coming of information communication technology has revolutionized the way researchers approach their work. And these digitization technologies have also made us privileged to have access to vast collection of primary resources. And the digital, it comes with its opportunities and challenges. Let me give a brief scenario. During, let's say before the 2000s, research were actually conducted just going to the archives. In fact, I remember we would, the British National Archive in Kew, or the one in the various national archives we have in Nigeria across Ibadan, Enugu, Kaduna, you need to go to the archives yourself, access their files, look for materials or for files that's related to the subject matter that you are researching on. But now you can sit down in the comfort of your room, look for, access so many files, and you would, in fact, at the point you will get lost, or you will get overwhelmed, or what is actually referred to as information overload, that you will begin to look, you will begin to get confused or get what's the kernel of your discussion you need. And that will take us to two major methodological issues we'll be looking at today. The first is the question of authenticity. The digitalization era or techniques has brought the question of authenticity. As a historian, sources is a raw material by which we form our analysis and our discussions, our rhetorics, how we go about looking for the subject of change and continuity as a historian. But when you put it on the digital realm, of course, objectivity, you need to look at objectivity. But when you look at the digital realm, there are three peculiar things you need to look at. First is the metadata. What do we mean by metadata? All these digital files we are looking at has so many data that you can get from it. Just looking beyond what you are reading, beyond just what you are seeing, you can get the source, you can get how many people have gone through the sources even before you went through it. What are the 5 formats that such particular materials or such archival materials has transited through? So that's what we mean by metadata. And also, we're also looking at the 5 formats. Why peculiar about 5 formats is researchers are finding it difficult, because 5 formats, as you go through the digital era is in 2 stages. There was a time we used floppy disk to store data or to store information, to save documents. We moved through flash drives, hard disk. In fact, the hard disk, we have HDD and SDD. HDD, of course, its compression file or speed is very minimal compared to the SDD, which can compress a larger amount of files. And so it becomes a problem when you are transiting, when you are using a particular hard drive to access a file on your system. That's when you begin to see some issues. And the second factor to consider when looking at question of authenticity is provenance. Who owns a digital file? Who owns a digital archive? And in this end, we'll be looking at 2 major factors. That's born digital and digitalization. Born digital files are files that are primarily digital. They've not passed through maybe they were written, they were from the start digital files. But digitalization files are those ones that over the years, just like the endangered archive program we have across the archives of the Nigerian Railway. They've come up with a particular researcher. Permit me, I can't remember his name. They've been able to archive, to digitalize those files. So that, and it becomes a problem. Who owns those files? Is it the NRC or the person who digitalized those files? And the last one we're looking at is potential for manipulation. It's with the era of ChatGPT, generative AIs, deepfakes, it becomes a problem when you have a file and it's manipulated. You are looking at, okay, what's the true credibility of such sources you want to make use of. So it is crucial we evaluate digital sources as we use them, and we also understand the limitations and biases they may possess. So it's for us to look at what we want, and all those limitations or biases that they could come with. And the second methodological issues we'll be looking at is the sheer volume of available digital sources. This era of research, we find ourselves, or with the coming of digitalization, we found out that there are so many materials that you can actually make use of. So it becomes a problem what amount of file, or what amount of books or journal articles or interviews you can conduct for you to make sure that your research was rigorous. And it even becomes more difficult if you are doing research on digital humanity. What do I mean? We are doing research on the online spaces, what you call netography. Maybe you are trying to look at the pattern or changes of a particular website or particular repository or particular digital archives. It becomes a problem because of the volume of data or sources you will be looking, or you will be presented with. So it becomes a problem that you should develop effective search strategies and utilize digital tools for data management and analysis. And also, if you are going in line with the qualitative, which of course is most what humanities or we historians are interested in, we look at the qualitative aspect, and that's when the issue of textual analysis comes in. Now, I haven't mentioned the methodological issues that comes in that we are faced with. That's the methodology, question of authenticity, and the sheer volume of available digital sources we have. Now we'll move to keeping a digital hygiene in archival research. At this point, let me give you an overview of what we mean by digital hygiene. Nowadays, we are confronted as a researcher. We are finding it difficult to make a barrier between our personal files and the files with which we make use of research. And it even becomes more cumbersome when you look at when you look at researchers or as a professionals, you need to be online every now and then to monitor some changes or some subject matter you have that would also keep you abreast of your subject matter, also of your field, what you are in field. So that's what we mean by keeping a digital hygiene in archival research. And let's also bear in mind that some of these digital archival research are retired. What do I mean by retired? Some of them are no longer available there online. So how do you still make sure that the one you have, the one you've assessed, you can also keep them, so that it will not become a problem when maybe you are trying to backtrack, you are trying to do your research, and at the point you get confused, you want to backtrack what you've done so far, so that you not, because believe me, the way the internet space, the digital space is going now, it's becoming cumbersome for you to track such changes. Of course, the generative AIs are making it easier, but it's only making it easier for people that are aware, for you that knows how to maneuver your way out of it. So the first one we'll be dealing with is the issue of selection. Now, how do you select digital files when you are doing archival research, or when you are in a digital archive and you want to make use of those materials that you need. And it even becomes a problem when you look at selection, having what you will lost, as in what you will lost when you don't archive those digital materials. Now, what you should keep in mind is a matter of choice. There are so many cloud services, digital storage devices you can make use of. But as it is now, it's always advisable that you make use of what we know as SDD. What SDD is another version of HDD. And what the SDD does is it compresses your files. It removes unnecessary metadata that could make your files no longer accessible on the long run. That's why maybe it might have happened to you that maybe a particular file, you have it for 2-3 years on your system, and at the point you click on it, it's not opening. It's because as you go on, as those files have been transited from one point to another, those metadata, they cannot keep in line with the latest version. That's why it's always advisable that those programs, you update the versions you are using, or at every point in time you try as much to back them up. And the second one is gathering. How do you gather digital files or files when you are in your archival, when you are doing your archival research? Let me also put it at this point that there are the institutional archives, I will come there, and the personal archives. But as a researcher, I'm more focused on the personal archive. Because I've been following the trend of the productivity hacks, and I believe that at a point these issues have been addressed. However, I would still share some resources that could help us on those issue of archival research, or institutional archival research, and the personal archival research. Now, the second one is gathering. Now, how do you gather your files or your research that they could keep up with long terms? Of course, we have so many devices. We have computers, phones, tablets, digital cameras, recorders, external hard drives, disks, email, cloud services, and personal websites. But the best one to use is the cloud services. What do I mean by cloud services? Even if your laptop is stolen today, even if your phone got damaged, your hard drive is no longer working, cloud services are those ones that you will always get access to them when you get any new device. For instance, we have Google Drive, we have Box, we have Microsoft OneDrive. So it's always advisable that you keep those things in the cloud services. In fact, there are the paid versions, and I'm also aware that some schools abroad have those services that you can enjoy, because it's a different thing when you have your system damaged and you are now looking at how you can access them. But once you have them stored in the cloud services, you don't have problem. And now let's back home. It's always ideal that you keep your digital files across cloud services. How do I mean? You can delete it. Okay, this Google Drive, this is what I want to be in the Google Drive. For my Microsoft OneDrive, this is what I want to be, and for my OneBox. So that way you would, because all these cloud services have their own limit, their upper limit. I mean the capability of files you can store. For Google Drive, it's 15 gig. So if you are the kind of that work with large data, you can, of course, you will keep it in Google Drive, and you can also look at using Microsoft OneDrive, so to speak. Now, the third one is organizing your files. Now, it's always advised when you are working with digital files or digital archival, when you are working with doing digital archival research, it's always advisable that you organize your files, not using Microsoft, or not using Microsoft Word. It's always advisable you use a spreadsheet, maybe on Google or normal spreadsheet, to keep track of those files you are working with, because that way it's easier to track, and also you can preserve and access them. Because nowadays we are faced with so much information, and getting them back is a problem. But when you make use of spreadsheet gives you an idea, and you can track the changes, even when you are using data management tools or using research management tools. And the fourth one is backing up. Now, following this backup, what you actually means is you follow the 3-2-1 rule. And what does 3-2-1 rule mean? Whenever you are using a digital, you are working you are doing an archival research, and you are working with digital copy, it's advisable you make 3 copies. Now, the 3-2, I'm talking about 3-2-1. You make 3 copies. You store 2 copies in different storage media. What do I mean? Is either you store one in, maybe you use your flash drive, or another one you store it in your hard drive or SSD, or you store it in your email. You have of course, email nowadays also serve as where we store our digital or Google Drive. And the last one, you store one entirely in a backup, entirely in a different location, so that way you can, whenever you fall into a crisis of accessing such data, you know that it cannot be so much worse that the 3 would no longer be accessible. And the last one is, how do you maintain these digital files you've worked with? Now, the first thing is annually, you check your storage. You check your storage annually. It's most of the time, as we work with all digital files, they are prone to redundancy. How do I mean redundancy? Once you don't no longer work with those files, the metadata in them will start processing, and you no longer have. And once you click on them, so it's always advisable that even if it's to have a good digital hygiene, it's always advisable that every quarter, maybe January, February, March, you check your storage, and you are sure that all the files you are working with are still accessible, and you are not having issues with them. It's a DIY practical that you can even run on using your command prompts on your system, and it will give you a rundown. Okay, these your files are still good to go. And the other one is you refresh your storage. It's always advisable that when you have a storage device, at least every 5 or 6 years, you replace them, because with the way technology is going, or with the way we are having new media to storage devices, it's very coming at a very fast pace rate, and it's always, once if you are a researcher that works with online with soft copies, it's always advisable that you refresh, you replace your storage every 5 to 7 years. Now, gradually moving to the second part of my presentation, which is where I would show you on the screen what the DIY practicals of what I've mentioned so far. I would first, the moderator, please, can I, moderator, sir?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, at this point, I will be sharing.
Yes, I made you host, so you can do that. Try from your end.
Okay.
Do you have any difficulty with the share?
Yes. The problem is I'm actually using my phone, so I'm trying to transit to the laptop. So I need yes. So it's actually taking a little time to do the transition.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
No problem. That's fine. We can wait. I mean, it's worth the wait. Okay, so thank you for the first session. I would just like to say, for those of us who are who joined us afterwards, this talk is around doing digital archival research and textual analysis. And Mr. Arugandadi has taken us through the preliminary. I would just like to know if anyone has any questions, kindly drop it on the chat box, rather. And when it's time for the Q&A, we'll take them. As well as comments. If you have any comments, perhaps from your own experience using some of the tools you will take us through, please feel free to drop them. How's it coming on, Abdullah?
Yes, I'm making headway through it. Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Please, can you see the screen this way?
Not yet. It's not coming on.
What did you say?
It's not coming on.
I can't hear you.
I said it's not being shared. I can't see the screen. I can't see your screen. Did you get what I said?
Okay.
It appears you are not sharing the screen, but your phone camera is trying to project it to us, I guess.
Who is that? I think
So is that little baby who is curious? I'm happy you're bringing her to join the research talk. I'm she's going to be a researcher. Toby.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, the moderator. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, but can you see the screen? Can you see the screen I'm trying to share?
Are you see?
The screen seems a bit far, but we can see, but it's not readable.
Or not? Okay. What I would I would continue with the presentation.
It's here. It's here. I can read it now.
You can read it clearly. Can you read it clearly?
Well, not the fine print, but I see digital archives and collections, digital collections, welcome, reference and background.
Okay.
Yes,
What
so
I'm actually
if you take us through, we can just follow with the screen that way.
Okay. What I'm actually showing you the page, the web page of University of Texas Libraries, and underneath is African Studies, their digital archives and collections across the areas of collections they have. You have reference and background, scholarly journal and articles, primary sources, and digital archives and collections. And as you scroll through, you could see that they have the general Africa, West Africa, and other ones you may be interested in. We also have the endangered archive programs of the British Library, which is also shown on the screen. And another digital archives we have is that of the African Studies of Leiden University in Netherlands. Their archive, their digital archives is also one of for Africans, for scholars who are interested in African history, or they have one of the very rich digital archives and collections you can access and you can go through. Also, let me also mention that all these resources are free. You can get them if you. I would make the PowerPoint available. If of course if that's okay with the, I will make it available so that those resources I'm talking about you would get them. And most of these libraries, they have their specialized collections too. And what do I mean by specialized collections? Some of them you either need to have an institutional affiliation with them, yes, or you are on a study visit with them. So it's always if you've had a network of your contact that could assist you to get those things you need. And coming back home, let me also mention that there have been efforts to start digitalizing our archives here in Nigeria. And one of those things, just as I mentioned earlier, is the Nigerian Railway Corporation in Lagos. Their files, they are being digitalized, and I'm also the one in Ibadan too. And from my own background as an army officer, for people that are interested in doing military history, the files of the Royal West African Frontier Force are available in Abuja, the resource center. They've been digitalized from the one in Zaria, so you can have access to them. What do I mean by having access? Of course, you need to travel. For now, it's not there are levels to this digitalization effort. They are digitalized in the sense that once you get there, you can file them, get them on the system and get them. Or they are digitalized and you can, from the comfort of your home or the comfort of your house, you can have access to them. So let's not mix these things up. Of course, when we are talking about digitalized, is that you can have access to them in a digital format, maybe using your phone or using your laptop. And let me also mention that there are so many softwares we can use for when we are doing digital archival research. And at this point, let me also mention that there's a difference between digital archives and digital repositories. Digital repositories is more in the scholarly community. What do I mean by scholarly community? Most universities, most research institutes make use of digital repositories, and digital repositories are strictly for scholarly materials, maybe inaugural lectures, monographs, data that a particular researcher has used and wants other researchers to have access to it and maybe come up with another research conclusion or having another. So those ones are digital repositories, and you can also always find most of our institutions making use of them. Use GSpace, UI, University of Ilorin, University of Lagos, and so on and so forth. And for digital archives, it's more personal. What do I mean by personal? Once these digital archive collections that you have, you can have your own you can have, just like I said, you can have your own Excel spreadsheet so that you won't mix them up. You can backtrack them. Okay, I make use of this digital collection from so university. You can make use of, okay, I made particular from so university. So that way you can actually have, because most of these guide or most of these archival collections are intertwined, and at the same time they have their own specialized collections too. Now, as a way of the take-home assignment, that the take-home tasks I will be giving, you can, if you are with your system, there is a software known as InVivo, spelled NVIVO, InVivo. Now, what InVivo does is, for those of us very much interested in qualitative data analysis, or we are into textual analysis, we are looking at arrays of articles or particular contributions to knowledge on a particular topic, and want to look at the meta narratives over the years. And in this InVivo, it's a very resourceful software you can make use of. As you can see on the screen, is this InVivo, and the name of the company is Luvero, so to speak. As I'm scrolling, you notice there are so many array of functions: import, organize, explore, connect, transcribe, collaborate. Now, what InVivo does is, you can, of course, there's a free trial and there's the paid version. But as a researcher, for you to enjoy the premium it's a paid, and most schools it's always advisable you make use of institutional access to it. Now, what in vivo does is, if you are having so much array of data of you want to do textual analysis, citation analysis, word cloud, you want to see the frequency of words researchers have used on a particular over the years. In vivo is a software you can make use of. Meanwhile, just like I mentioned, is a free trial. You can download the version, the latest version. But meanwhile, it's you can if you are privileged to have the paid version or have the institutional. And another one is you can also have the organized webinar for you to even make use of it over if you are having problem with going through having problem with those tools. And it's a free their webinar is a free it's a free webinar, and they will take you through the technicalities of making use of. And the second digital tool I'll be introducing is what they call Antcock. Now, Antcock, this is where the take-home assignment is. I would share on the, I don't know whether on the group, okay, on the webinar now. I mean on the I will share the link, yes, to get the Antcock and the how a particular researcher was able to look at the textual analysis, what researchers have done over the years in two journals. I will start with Journal of Historical Society of Nigeria, JHSN, and another one, the Journal of Anthropology, South Africa. What these researchers did was that they were able to make use of this software to look at what themes, research themes, researchers over the years have got interested in. Not only that, and what are the changing patterns in those research themes. Of course, it's a secluded, because they only looked at the journal articles, but notwithstanding, no, journal articles is a very very strong avenue, or very resourceful avenue for researchers to publish their work. As a way of conclusion, I would like to remind us that these resources and tools, we should try and we should use them responsibly and ethically. With the array of tools and resources we are having now, it's very easy to be manipulated. It's very easy for someone to cook up something and tell you that, okay, this is what I've said. But as researchers, we have the responsibility to take academic integrity serious, the integrity of our sources and of whatever we are researching on. And also, we should, as we are using these sources, these tools, we should also attribute them to to attribute these sources, where we get them. That's why there are so many citation or so many APA, MLA. They even go to the extent of you can reference a Facebook post, provided you can have the link to that Facebook post. So it's like those sources are the research landscape is changing over the years. And also, as we also make use of these tools and resources, we should also try and evaluate them. We should use our critical eyes and evaluate them and the information we encounter. Thank you very much. I will be sharing the link of those tools I've mentioned: In Vivo, Antcock, and in Vivo, Antcock, and this textual, the particular journals I made mention, so that by next week we will look at how once I will read it, we look at those things. You can play with them, all those softwares, and also we'll come back and discuss textual analysis. Don't forget, textual analysis falls under researchers in the linguistics, in generally humanities, but in languages. They make more use of textual analysis, but of course, we in the humanities also make use of textual analysis to look at, to find clusters, frequency patterns of words researchers have used over the years, and also what are the research agendas that incoming or the oncoming generation of scholars will be looking at. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. That's a wonderful presentation from you there. At some point, I was beginning to think that we'll take next week's session today, but thankfully you just gave us a tip of the iceberg. So that's the first bit of this talk. Abdullah introduced us to the whole concept of digital archival research, talking about the various types of archives and the storage modes, as well as how to be, I can't remember the word he uses now, but something about hygiene, being digitally hygiene or something like that. I didn't know that. Digital hygiene. I didn't know that was a thing, but thank you for mentioning that. So now we'll take questions and comments. If anyone has any comments or contribution or question rather, could you kindly signify? But I think I should ask some questions myself. I was curious, and I know that this is true for many universities. I know they have what they call interlibrary loan, where you can access materials available in other universities or other institutions via your research library or your university library. But is it possible, and have you worked on any related project where an individual creates an archive on his own and shares with the public and is accessible? Because I'm seeing that the future of research is actually digital. And I remember, was it some years back, I was informed about late Professor Ade Ajayi making his private library, his archives, open to the public. And that was such a beautiful thing. I visited the library last year, and I saw a lot of materials on the issue of development in Nigeria that I couldn't have access anywhere else. But unfortunately, not everyone can access that library, and not everyone might be able to access those materials Professor Ade Ajayi had. So I think there is now an initiative by Professor Ade Ajayi's wife and his children to digitize all of his collections. And now people can access that archive from anywhere. So I just thought about that. If one person can do that, imagine all graduates, what's it called, institutions around the world making their digital archives available, or researchers on their own, onboarding other researchers who might be working along the same lines as them. So is that possible? And if it is, how one does that? So that's a question for thought. You would take it later, but let's see if there are any other person who ask question. Any other questions?
Well, I think I have a question, but I really don't know.
Okay,
or a contribution towards the challenges that digital archives could portend in the near future of research. What I mean by this is that in my experience here, from where we're coming from, or because we are old school researcher, gathering textbooks and references from the pages of books we found there, you know what I mean? So in the UK here, when I was doing my research, and most of my engagement, I have to focus on this digital archive. So it was quite challenging laying hands on them, being new to all these stuffs. But then I also want to use a similar reference for a related study in Nigeria, because I couldn't come down, and those I engaged as a research assistant, and what we were able to come out with, I just need something digital. So when that information came, I think there was a conflict. My lecturer was, my supervisor was in conflict with that digital information I presented. So the question is, are there not going to be conflicts in terms of validity of certain archival materials if there's something to go by that in our research landscape? So, like I said again, you mentioned that Facebook references can be used if we have link. I don't know if I get that right, officer. Now, if we have the link to that post, we could actually archive it and also make use of it in our research. And now that some informations are untrue, reading recently when somebody posted, there was this news that CBN was devaluating the naira or something when the president announced that the subsidy is gone. And news this day brought out the what's it called, the news, only for CBN to refute it. So if I have gone with whatever has been said and they need to bring this down after it has been archived, and only to know that that information, which I was privileged to have got.
Hello, Toby. Are you still there? We lost you there. Okay, Abdullah, did you get Toby's question?
Yes, I get his questions. Let me start from him if he's still with us. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let me be clear on when I said you can use Facebook once you have the link. What I'm saying is when you look at the citation of APA MLA, they've made it that you can reference issues, or let me be careful here. I'm not saying you should reference false information. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that researches now has opened up, like you can, there was when as a student then in UI, we are made to know that, okay, primary sources, secondary sources, tertiary sources, and there's often there are no mention of, okay, web links, Twitter posts, and because of the time we find ourselves, there's no way when you are making some arguments or you want to frame some, you need to make reference to, and I will give you an example. There was a recent research, I think it was published last year by Professor Farouk Ogide in US about Twitter. It was analyzing Twitter posts of this former President Donald Trump on Puerto Ricans and on Puerto Ricans and I think the immigration policy, all those stuff. Now, what I'm saying is this referencing these things are so that you will not just assume or say, okay, this is what people are saying. There's a particular reference to it that, okay, this is what, I mean, look at, if you are an ethnographer, if you are in the social sciences, look at the last elections. There were movement, and if you want to get data, or we want to get data of what people are saying of the contestants, of the presidential candidates. I mean, Twitter is a platform from which you would get those sources, you will get those data you need. So that's what I'm just trying to paint. But just like I've said, we should also be careful, because some of these things we need to be, as researchers, we hold very much. It's a duty for us to be on the lookout of what is correct and what is false. And on secondly, as for conflict of validity, yes, conflict of validity. Of course, there will definitely be conflict when you are looking at you are trying to look at what researches have been done, and you are trying to use the same sources coming back home. The truth is, in Nigeria, for now, as it is now, our digital research or digital archival landscape, we are still not there yet, because there are so many information. In fact, okay, let me give you an example. Recently, I was having a thought about film. That's film over the years. You know, we are now in the cinemas age of films in Nigeria. How, okay, you are in stage of platform, you look at Netflix, Showmax, but there was a time it was home videos, or you buy those films. Now, who are archiving those films? Because 5-10 years now, those films, those let me give you an example, all those films that, yes, when we knew we are growing up with, and it's a very rich mind for for doing research. But nobody is archiving them. Nobody is saying, okay, this particular film, can we still have it in this digital format? So we are not there yet, but we hope that the initiatives we've been having around, little by little, it will bring us there. Because the truth is, at this stage, even for graduates, for undergraduates, it's very important to have these digital skills. It's very important someone equip itself. And for conflict of validity, it's still advisable that in the Nigerian, once you are doing your research in Nigeria, you should still try as much as possible to go with to have the interviews, focus group discussions. Don't still be derailed with the fact that, yes, people that are there online, people you can don't be derailed by it until you meet people one-on-one, that they will share all those, remove the facade of social media. And so there's always a conflict of validity, yes, but it's always advisable that once you are having those kind of research, when it comes to, you should always do it physically. What do I mean? So I can have the interview, do your population sampling, come down, meet people, because the digital space is a different ball game entirely. What we want people to see out there on our social media spaces is quite different from what we are going to tell people in person. So that's, and for the digital archive, what are efforts that have been done so far, or what can we do? Yes, I've visited Professor Ade Ajayi, late Professor Ade Ajayi Library, and I'm also aware that there are digital efforts, to digitalize it. But also there are also efforts, initiatives going on here and there. But the problem is, how do we consolidate? How do we bring those initiatives to fruition? Especially when we can form maybe a consortium, so to speak, or okay, particular person has researched on this. What can we digitize? What can we digitalize for other researchers to have access to? It's a problem, and it's a one that we need to reflect on at the same time, because now we have there are so many research teams open up for new researchers. There are so many recently I'm aware people are researching on sports, on the Nigerian team over the years. We have so many researchers coming on, but the problem we are always having is what works have been done in this are always works outside. And we also need to be careful when it comes to when we need to apply theories, or we need to also be conversant of our environment. So yes, there have been efforts, and I can assure you that the one in Kaduna, Mambia House, also this Mambia House of BUK have also started a digitalization effort in that line of their manuscripts, and also of their scholars over the years. And it's also a problem, because when you look at, for instance, late Professor Obaro Ikime died, I think, some few weeks ago. And people were, one of his great work was Groundwork of Nigerian History. And it's always that, oh, you must, the hard copy here and there. But it's a limited copies. In fact, I was surprised I was able to see the soft copy of that book, Groundwork of Nigerian History, on Nigerian Library, the same Nigerian Library in Abuja. They've also started a digitalization effort of those rare books. We call them rare books that over the years you no longer see them in circulation, but they are still very rich when you are interrogating some important research teams in, maybe, for instance, you are researching intergroup relations. In fact, those works have become a canon. They've become a canon in themselves, that, okay, this book, it's a canon in itself. So the GRC as a team can come up with, okay, what can we do? And we also need, if we will be involving, for instance, Society of Nigerian Archivists, because I'm aware in this time of the world, if you don't have a visibility, people don't know what you are doing. You'll be surprised that people are doing some things when it comes to digital, but we don't know about them, and people are not talking about them. So that's where the problem comes in. So thank you very much. I think I've been able to answer your questions.
Yeah, and just a few comments on Toby's question. I think what the supervisor was questioning, Toby, is not so much the validity of your source as much as the accuracy of that source. So that something accurate does not mean it is not valid.
That's correct. I get that. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. First, I want to thank you for this wonderful lecture. I've been following it with a maintenance interest. I'm in the Department of Languages and Linguistics. I teach languages and I also teach linguistics. This digital humanities, very, very recently, a friend of mine from University of U drew my attention to it. I knew little or nothing about it. And all what you've been saying, I think, is a reflection of some of the things he told me. Please, someone like me who has little or no idea of digital humanities, if we want to begin, where do I start from? Thank you.
Okay. Let me mention that yes, it's because of digital humanities is a very wide array. It's an emerging field, but at the same time, because of the time it found itself, there are so many vast information going out there. Now, let me start with this. You would definitely have a research interest, a peculiar research interest in languages and linguistics. For instance, let me paint a picture. Have you ever, maybe, for instance, I'm an army officer. Maybe all this while, at times the higher authority, they make press releases on Facebook page, on the Twitter, on Facebook, or monthly reports of the security situation in the country. Now, what I'm trying to paint a picture of digital humanities. Now, what a digital humanities will do is those press releases, those presentations they've made over the years, they would get those data, those presentations, and look at what what are the frequency of words, what are the percentage of particular words they've used, what are the, I mean, it's when you begin to look at the changes and continuities of how the higher authorities in militaries address a particular situation, then you begin to understand what digital humanities mean. Digital humanities simply means you are still within your area of interest, maybe rhetorics or but you are trying to, your audience now, your audience and the platform is changing. You are no longer looking at the traditional methods of okay, doing research, or you are looking at the digital space. You are looking at an online community. For instance, just like what I pointed out earlier, Professor Farouk, you look at the Twitter, the what are people saying about Donald Trump doing the Puerto Ricans. Now, what you do is, because people are talking about it, and you also already have a large population of people there. And believe me, one of the Nigeria in Africa, Nigeria has one of the biggest online community when it comes to Facebook, WhatsApp, TikTok. We have, if not even, in fact, it's the biggest, because we are trailing after South Africa, and that's why whenever you look at public chains, whenever you also look at Nigerians are blazing the trail, because okay, what are those hashtags? And another, what you can also look at is, the first thing to do is get to belong to those communities. What I mean by is, you are being in those communities not to talk. You are just being there to monitor, to look at, okay, what are the changes? What are going on? Or let me put it another way, that you can also, maybe for a start, go to ResearchGate for researchers. I know ResearchGate, academia.edu. Now, those are two for academics. You can look at digital humanities and look at the trends that people have been the trends of research teams and research like that. So once you begin to look it that way, you would find out you are still within your research interest, but you are trying to reach out to another audience, to another communities entirely. So that's what that's the idea of digital humanities. And just like I've said, to start, you can even as Facebook is you can look at communities. Okay, maybe for instance, like I've also said, maybe you want to look at the trends, how the Nigerian army or a particular parastatals reach out to people in its online communities. Over the years, they've posted pictures, they've posted so many releases, how they react to issues. So that's what it's one of the canals of digital humanity. And also digital humanities is those materials, those things you have that is locked in maybe in the four walls of the library. How can it reach a wider audience, not just within the academic or scholarly community, that this particular thing is always within. You can even look at themes from the popular culture, from the people, and how you can translate them into, maybe for instance, into policy, or into instance how emerging theories or emerging gaps in knowledge. So that I think I've been able to clear. And also, lastly, let me also put it out there that it is understandable that at first digital humanities will definitely be a problem, maybe because there's always the digital natives, and what I mean by digital natives, people that quite from their early age, they've been predisposed to how to use some of these all these media technologies. So if you are finding yourself difficult, you know that there's a problem of reception at first. Like, okay, can I use this? Is it something I can work with? So it's understandable. But by the time you begin to open yourself and to understand that, yes, it's a valuable source, but at the same time, it's a mind that someone should be careful while working with. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I went off, my battery went low. Does anyone else has any question before we call it a day for today? Please be reminded that we'll meet next week, Thursday, the same time, and most likely the same link. So kindly stay tuned for the follow-up of the session. I was just making some comments before I was cut off earlier about Toby's question. I think it's a very important question because a lot of us reference source that might not so much be valid, and it could set us up when we are making presentations, especially with experts or to experts who know or who have first-hand information about this things we're presenting. So just simply saying there is a concept called collective truths, and we are currently experimenting with that at my center where I work. Toby, can you hear me? Toby, are you there? Okay. Let me just give this broader. So I'm saying that sometimes you need to look for other related sources to back up that very information that you're trying to evidence or you're trying to cite. So for instance, in NIA, we have a Center for Early Warning, and what we do at that center is to track news around the world. Transnational crimes, Sudan crisis, talk about it, climate change, as much as they have implications for Nigeria. And so we have several channels. We look at CNN, we look at BBC, we look at, what do you have, African news channels, all of that. Oh, you can hear me, great. So we now try to come with, should I call it a balanced opinion from all of these sources? So if there's a news we saw on CNN and we don't see that news on channels, or we don't see it in African news, or we don't see it in, say, Al Jazeera, we feel that that news might be reported because of its agenda or because of a particular reason that we are not yet sure of. So we don't cite that immediately as our source. We wait till we can confirm from, say, somebody we have in that country or somebody who is on the field. So I think that might give your work a little bit of validation, or not validation, let me use some sort of substantiation when you go ahead to present. So you don't just rely on one source. You say, okay, I got this information from here, but these are other places that I saw the information on. So that CBN thing, if you had checked other sources, you will see that they didn't report. I don't think Punch newspaper reported that news. So, I mean, but again, welcome to the era of misinformation and disinformation. And that's one thing we need to kick against as researchers. So you need to be double sure of this reference, of this source that you're getting. I hope that helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I'm sure it's been a pleasurable moment. I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to next week's session. Beg your pardon. So on behalf of the GRC team, thank you for coming. We'll see you next week. I dropped the link earlier on. If you are not on the GRC and you'd love to join us, kindly sign up via that link, bit.ly/join the capital GRC, and you'll be added to the group. All right, do have a wonderful night.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.